Tonight's podcast. I'm Nick.
And I'm Tammy.
We're coming to you live from the Appalachian Mountains right here in the home of Eastern Kentucky. We're very excited about tonight's podcast. We have a very special guest. Very excited about what God is doing here. We want to thank everybody for their encouraging words and all their support that's been given. You guys are awesome. We have some more guests coming down the line. If I haven't scheduled you yet, just be patient. You will be on the way. Back in 2024, I had a bunch that I added in, but God is working with me on organization. But without further ado, we're going to get with our guest here. It is Sister Misty Duncan Lawson.
Uh-oh. Where's she at?
Oh, no. Did she get kicked off?
I don't know, but yeah, we have Sister Misty tonight. She is an awesome woman of God, and so
as you all know, we've been through this before.
Yeah, technical difficulties aren't anything new, but we will try to get her here on the podcast.
But we have, there she is.
You guys, there's stuff on my screen.
There she is.
Yeah, we were just
Yep.
introducing you, and we knew that we would get connected in here shortly. So
Every time this happens to us, we fear it's the rapture and we've been left behind.
yeah, technical difficulties aren't anything new around here, so we just hang in there.
Yeah,
So,
you'll probably catch me looking like.
So, Sister Misty, we've known all of us known each other for what, about 5+ years?
I lose track of
Yeah.
time. It's been several years. I couldn't even.
Yeah, we're
number.
so old that we forget to count.
Maybe more like 8.
Yeah, that sounds about right. So
Yeah.
if you would take us back to when you first felt the Lord dealing with you in your life.
Well, so when I was about 14, I was going over here to Braun Hill Church. That's where I kind of grew up, going to church with my mama. And me and my 2 cousins would go with her there. And, at 14, so I didn't really know any better, I guess you could say. I knew that if you didn't want to go to hell, you had to be saved.
Yeah.
So, so one day, me and my cousins decided just to go up front and pray, and, you pray the prayer. And, I got a little emotional, I think, just because of the whole ordeal. But anyways, I thought I got saved at 14. And, honestly, I don't believe that I really was, because I was only doing it for fear. And so I went on about my life,
Mm-hmm.
I was baptized and all that jazz. But when I had gotten pregnant with my son, I knew I wanted to kind of raise him in church. So I started going to a little church at 4 Mile in Grayson with my mom and my dad. And I had went there for years. I was with my son's dad at the time, and we wasn't married. And so I struggled with, I thought that I couldn't get saved because I was with him and not married to him. So I knew I wanted to be saved again. And I loved going to church, and I would see people at church, and I would think, man, I want to be like that. I want to have what they have.
Mm-hmm.
And for the longest time, I let that stop me. And we ended up getting married, but then we got divorced and things, and I met Brandon and got with him. So the same thing all over again. I was still raising my kids in church and going to church. and I wanted to be saved. And at the same time, I would like talk to the Lord, and I would tell him that I wanted to be saved and I wanted that lifestyle, but God, I have children and I'm not married, and I just thought that my mindset then, I didn't know any better. And then I don't know, like I felt it so strong, and for about 2 weeks I was picking my Bible up and I was reading it, and I was curious about everything it had to say, and just wanted to get deeper and deeper into the Lord. And on my way to work one Sunday morning, because the church that I was going to then, they only had church on Saturday nights. They didn't have it. The only youth there was my 3 kids that went. So they didn't have like a Sunday school or anything. And I was driving to work, and a song I loved, I was listening to on my CD player in my
Yeah,
car.
yeah,
You don't have those anymore.
Right.
But I just started praying, and I was just like screaming out to God and just giving him my all. And I was like, God, I don't care if I'm not married. I don't care if I have children out of wedlock. Like, I will do anything. And I was just praying and screaming to him, and because I just couldn't take it anymore. It was so heavy on me.
yeah,
And at that moment is when I truly got saved, and I knew because I felt it. I cried the whole way to work. I don't know who drove my car because it wasn't me. I wasn't driving. I was bawling and crying, and
Yeah.
I think that's awesome too because sometimes the traditions of men will do more damage than good because like
mhm.
certain ideas about divorce and who God can and will use. I think it's awesome that even in that period, the conviction that you felt was actually like God drawing you closer to Him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that at the time because um I was afraid. Like, I still maybe thought I was just in my feelings because I wanted what the church people had and wanted to be like that. And I was just so scared because I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't get saved and not be married and still living with my husband. And like at the same time that I wanted it so bad, I was also scared to have it because I was so afraid of messing up and doing wrong.
Yeah.
And um, I couldn't wait to get to work and call my mom and tell her, and I was crying. And I came home and I told Brandon, and he said, "Well, I knew something was up with you because you was reading your Bible an awful lot, and you never done that." And so and he says, "Well, I guess we got to get married now, don't we?" But it was I got saved August 10th, 2014, and January 5th of 2015 we were married. And
Mhm.
God just, I mean, it's like everything, of course, just started falling into place.
Mhm.
It was amazing. I know for me personally, I don't think that you can just go up to an altar and pray the sinner's prayer and be saved. Like, because I done that and it wasn't the broken heart and the contrite spirit.
Yeah.
It was just, I don't want to go to hell. I need to get saved. And when I really cried out to him that day, I had a broken heart and it was heavy, and that's
Yeah.
all I cared about and all I wanted. And um, you have to truly have your heart in it if you want to get saved, I think. Like,
Yeah.
you have to be willing to give him your all. And I was like, I didn't care. I was like, I don't care if I'm not married. I don't care if I have children out of wedlock. Like, I just get all to you. Do what you want with it. No.
Yeah.
And I think it's what a lot of people miss. It's like as long as you give it to God, like He will work with you where you're at. I think a lot of people have the misunderstanding that they have to get it together before they can go to God. But
Yeah.
that's the price that Jesus paid, you know where the veil was ripped in two, so anybody could come to the Lord.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't say that it was really like a religious mindset because I don't. being that young, they were probably teaching different, and I just wasn't paying attention. But
Yeah.
it kind of was like a religious mindset because I always thought growing up that I had been married and divorced, and I had a child with that. I just thought I couldn't get saved because I wasn't married, and thought that I was going to be messing up. I don't know,
So you've been
really.
now that you've been saved and married, like we've all been in the walk long enough to know that we're always going to mess up. So what's life been like after getting saved, getting married? How has your relationship with the Lord grown since then?
Well, I had a really hard time because I was going to church and taking the kids to church and trying to live the Christian life. My husband, however, was not. And uh, I hope I don't offend him at all by talking about this, but this is my testimony. He was doing drugs, and he would work, but only really when he had to. And the last, so we have been together. This year will make 18 years.
Wow.
And so there was a period where we had split up because I had had enough. And being a Christian, it was hard because um, it's like a constant tug and pull. I was trying to do
Yeah.
good and be the good Christian wife and hold my tongue and just pray for him and um, be silent, but then at the same time, the things he was doing, and we were constantly arguing and fighting, not physically, but fighting, and it wasn't healthy for my kids. And
Yeah.
I got to where I didn't want to be home. I didn't want to come home from work. I didn't want to be around him. I was at my mom's a lot, and that too took a toll on my kids because if I wasn't around him, most of the time I wasn't around my kids, and I would fight back and I would get angry. And there was times that I would tell him I hated him and couldn't stand him, and it was a hard struggle. So I did was talking to the Lord a lot, trying to keep my composure. But eventually, I had had enough, and I realized, God, I'm not ever going to be able to change him. The only person that can change him is you, and I can't do it, and I'm not going to do it anymore. So I had kicked him. I had made him leave, and he was gone for 8 months. And during that time, I swore like, and it had to been the Lord because I almost hated him. Like my heart had a hardened towards him. It got to where I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to look at him. I didn't care where he was living, how he was living, and he knows all this. So, but he never would quit. He still always tried to get me back, and he was always calling and messaging me, and I was so mean to him. I was so mean to him. It was awful. I mean, but at the same time, I still, God was telling me to take him food, and so I would take him groceries because I knew he wasn't working and didn't have nothing to eat, and we still bought him Christmas presents and took them to him, me and the girls, and just different things. But at the same time, I couldn't stand him. I worried about him. I don't know how to explain it. And I swore that I wasn't never going to take him back. And I remember, so here's where this started. I'll try to keep it short. It's a little bit of a story, but he had gotten in some trouble and got put in jail. And um, when he was released from jail, so he had asked the judge to send him to a rehab instead of just sending him back out on the streets. So the judge was sending him to rehab, and he was at Wendy's one morning waiting on his counselor or somebody to come and take him to that rehab, and George happened to be in there, and they may have met a time or two, but I don't think they really knew each other. But he heard George's voice and automatically knew who he was, so he tapped him on the shoulder, and he had told George a little bit about what was going on, and he had asked George to pray with him. So George
Wow.
sat down and prayed with him. And George called me at work that morning. He said, "You'll never guess who I talked to and what happened." And I was like, "Who?" And he told me about it. And he said, "Now, Missy," he said, "before I pray about this, I need to know how are you praying about it, because I don't want my prayers to contradict your prayers, and the Lord's not about confusion." And I said, "Don't you dare pray for us to get back together." I did. I was like, and you can ask him. I said, and he said, "Are you sure?" I said, "Don't." I said, "You better not." I said, "Because I am not getting back with that man. I can't stand him." And what worried me is I knew George's prayers was going to reach heaven, and I was like, "Don't you dare." But he said, "Now, what if it's the Lord's will for you guys to get back together?" I said, "The only way I will ever get back with that man is if I know it's God." I said, "Otherwise, it'll never happen." And he said, "Well, I'll tell you this. What if I just pray for the Lord's will?" I was like, "Fine, whatever." I was
Yeah.
bitter,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Yeah, whatever. Go ahead." And anyhow, long story short, uh, he had gotten a hold of me and told me he had gotten saved, and I was like, "Oh, I'll believe that when I see it, whatever." And he said he was getting baptized. His mom ended up getting sick and put in ICU, so
Hmm.
I had called down there to let them know that, so they could tell him that she wasn't doing really well.
Yeah.
And he had found a way to get back up here, and he said, "Will you bring the girls to the hospital to see me?" And I said, "Sure." So I took the girls over there, and just seeing him, I could see the change in him, like just automatically. His eyes were kinder and more lit and just twinkly, and just you could his whole demeanor just changed. You could tell he
Yeah.
wasn't the same person. And from there on, you know, but I knew it was the Lord. I had prayed the whole time. I was still praying for him,
Yeah.
for the Lord to help him and change him. And I was like, "Lord, even though I'm not getting back with him, just change him, because I still didn't want him to go to hell." And the Lord, I think, with me getting myself out of the way, my feelings and all that out of the way, it gave the Lord room to work,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
He took over. And now, I mean, I have the marriage that I had always wanted, being married to him, being a Christian, and
So did
and
he
I grew so much through that.
did he accept the
Did
Lord
he accept the Lord
in
in
rehab?
in rehab?
Yes. Yeah, he did. He got saved in rehab, and he got baptized down there.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
and it and I can tell, because everybody at first was so angry with me for taking him back, and they were throwing my words back at me like I thought you wasn't going to have him back, and I said, "Well, I said I wouldn't unless I knew it was the Lord," and I knew it was the Lord, and I still know, because it's still changed. Like, he's a completely different person, and things are way better, and he has that respect and stuff for me that he should have had a long time ago. And uh, but in all that, I grew so much. One thing I can say is, I thought that I was so strong in the Lord. Like, I was like, "I can do this. I don't need no man. I've got God. That's all I need." And I just thought I was real strong. But during the time that we were split up, Satan slipped in there, and he used me being lonely against me. And I was seeing another man while me and my husband was split up, and that man too was married. And nothing happened, like, you know, but I was talking to another man and things, and the whole time I knew it was wrong. Like, and the Lord was constantly telling me that it was wrong, um, and in my mindset at that time, I was like making excuses or making reasons. I was coming up with ways to justify what I was doing,
Yeah.
and um, I was. Listen, my mind is different. I have a different mind. So at the same time that I'm doing this, I'm still praying like, Lord, please keep me and don't let me fall from your grace. And it was like I don't know, but I know that it was wrong, and I've repented from all that and everything. And my husband had done some things too that before that I'd found out that wasn't right, but we forgave each other, and
Yeah.
we've let that go. But I grew so much in the Lord through all of that. It was even though it was very hard and very, I don't know about you, Tammy, but I'm a woman who likes to be in control.
I think that's
I think
just a
that's
natural
just a
thing.
natural thing.
Yes, I think I have to control everything. So for me to make him leave, like, my world was completely flipped upside down. It was so, I lost control of everything.
Yeah.
I lost control of him, or I thought I was controlling him. Things had to change around here because I didn't have him here. So I was getting in the wood and mowing the yard and taking care of I lost a little bit of control, I think, of even my Christianity for a while. And, but I think through all that, even though it happened the way it did, God taught me a lot. He taught me how to let go of control,
Yeah.
and to know that my ways are not his ways, and that he is in control. And if we just humble ourselves and get out of the way, then he can work and he can do what he needs to do for us. And my faith grew so much in that too. And then he also kind of slapped me in the face because I wasn't going to take Brandon back, and here I am. He's like, I'll show you.
Well, see,
It's my will,
See, the Lord
not
sent
yours.
Brother George.
Yes, yeah. He still teases me about it to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a hard experience, but it was a good experience. I'm able now to look back and see how God worked through every bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so humbling.
So if you had
any
any advice to give
any
somebody
advice
else
to give somebody else
that might be going through the
that
same
might be going through the
situation,
same situation,
what would you tell them?
what would you tell them?
Honestly, this is not the exact same situation, but I work with some girls, and they, well, one, for example, has a lot of stress and stuff in her life, and she wants to take care of everybody and do everything and have that control, and she's slowly killing herself because it's constant headaches and stomach pain, and and I tell her all the time, I'm like, please just listen to me. I've been through something like that, and you have got to realize that it's not you that's going to be able to change these people. You can help them the best of your ability, but don't kill yourself over it. You have to give it to God. You've got to have that faith in God that He is going to be the one to change them and help them, and there's nothing that you can do. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
there was nothing I could do with my husband. He was going to do what he wanted to do, and nothing I was doing was changing that. You've got to learn to just truly lay it all down at God's feet and let Him take that burden, because, I mean, otherwise you're killing yourself.
Right.
It's a slow suicide.
Mhm.
And then, never stop praying, because even when me and Brandon were split up and I felt the way that I felt about him, I was still praying for his soul, because he's a human being and he was my kid's dad. And I guess whether I want to admit it or not, I did love him still. There had to be some love there to still want to pray for the man. But I'm kidding. He knows. I would joke with him about it too. But um, just keep praying.
One thing
One thing we need to pray
one thing we need to pray about
is maybe we can get
is
him
maybe
on
we
here
can get him on here
and share his
and share
testimony.
his testimony.
Listen,
Yeah.
keep praying about that, because he's very introverted. Very. He don't. I mean, if you see him out in public with me, you're lucky, because he's a homebody. He's not. I don't know. He's different. I know that God can change that too, though. I mean, I do know that.
Yeah.
So I ain't worried about that at all. Just keep praying about it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Well, I think Ed
Well, I think Ed will
pretty much wrap it up.
pretty much wrap it up.
If you ever get a
If you ever get a
chance or want
to come back again,
you have an open
opportunity.
Oh, I don't care a bit.
I
Anytime.
hear an
I
echo.
hear an echo. That's why I'm pausing.
Oh, I don't hear it. It's not on my end.
So that's
why
why
I'm
taking pauses.
pauses.
You remind me of that sloth on that cartoon. It's what is that? I don't even know, where it's doing the typing and trying to get the ticket or whatever wrote up.
We thank you again.
But we thank you again
for being with us.
And
we know that your
testimony is going to bless others.
Yeah, a lot of people struggle with something similar, I know, and it really is it's a growth process too, though. I have to say that I wasn't so easy to just lay stuff down for the Lord to take either, and I wasn't so easy to have that kind of faith, and that's just something that the Lord has had to teach me the hard way, because I'm hard-headed.
Yeah.
He has to teach me the hard way.
Me too.
I truly have to be thrown in the fire. I'm the type of person, I'm like, Lord, I need a sign on it, and then he slaps me in the face and he's like, here's your sign. Sometimes I still question it. I'm like, are you sure? That's me.
The sign of a sign.
The sign of a sign.
Mm-hmm. I know not everybody is going to get that right off, and especially if they're babes. It's took me this long to grow as much as I have, and it's just a learning process. But God will teach you if you ask Him,
Absolutely. Well,
alrighty, everybody.
We're going to
wrap it up and
join us next
Tuesday
for the new
guest.
They'll bless
All
your
right.
socks
They'll
off,
bless your socks off.
just like Misty did.
Just
I
like
hope I
Misty
bless
did.
somebody's socks off tonight.
Amen.
Yeah.
Mm.
All right. See you guys.
Alrighty, see you guys.
All right, bye.